Tonight, while the world gets quieter and the noise falls away, someone younger than you is lying awake with your name moving through their mind again and again, not for a second, not as a passing thought, in a deep, restless way they cannot fully explain. Stay with me, because this is not about a random crush, and it is not about fantasy. It is about the kind of connection that follows a person into silence, into late hours, into the private places where they can no longer pretend they feel nothing. While you are trying to move on, trying to stay busy, trying to act like your heart is calm, there is someone who keeps returning to your energy every night. They replay your voice. They remember your face when you were tired. They think about the way your silence said more than your words ever did, and what unsettles them most is this. They did not expect you to matter this much. They did not expect one person to stay in their head like this. So, listen closely, because the next part explains why they cannot shake you, why their mind keeps circling back, and why some people become unforgettable without even trying. What you are about to hear may feel personal. It may feel a little too exact, and if it does, there is probably a reason for that. Because some connections do not arrive loudly. They arrive softly, and then they take over everything when the lights go out. What happened between you and this person did not begin on the surface. That is why it keeps pulling them back at night. This was not only about looks, charm, or attention. It was something deeper, something quieter. They felt seen around you in a way that made them both safe and nervous at the same time. Most of the people they knew before were inconsistent, loud, distracted, hungry for attention, or afraid of real closeness. Then they met you, and something inside them slowed down. Your presence felt real. Your energy did not beg. It did not perform. It did not chase. It simply existed, and that truth hit them harder than they expected. People who are younger often do not realize how hungry they are for emotional safety until they meet someone who carries depth so naturally that it feels effortless. And when they meet that kind of person, something unfinished inside them wakes up. That is what makes your connection stay alive in their mind. It touched a place they had not healed, a place they had not named, a place they had tried to ignore. Maybe it was your calmness. Maybe it was the sadness you never fully explained. Maybe it was the strange mix of strength and softness you carry without making a show of it. Whatever it was, it reached them. And once a person feels emotionally understood in a world full of shallow noise, it becomes almost impossible to forget. Keep watching this feeling closely, because what seems confusing on the outside often has very clear roots underneath. The truth is, they probably fought these feelings more than you know. They may have pulled away, they may have acted cold, confusing, or distant. They may have disappeared and then returned like nothing happened. But distance does not always mean absence. Sometimes distance means the feelings became too strong and they did not know how to hold them. Younger hearts often mistake deep emotion for danger because they are not used to something that touches them this honestly. They know how to deal with quick attention. They know how to deal with light attraction. But this is different. This is the quiet kind of attachment that enters the subconscious and stays there. It shows up when they hear a certain song. It appears when they are in a crowded room and suddenly everybody else feels empty. It returns when they are talking to someone attractive, yet still comparing the energy in front of them to what they felt with you. And yes, sometimes they hate that. Sometimes they try to distract themselves with work, with friends, with casual conversations, with temporary connections, with endless scrolling, with anything that can keep them from facing what is really happening. But in the end, their mind circles back. That is the strange power of an emotional bond that arrived without force. It keeps breathing under the surface. It waits until night. Then it rises again. And if you have ever felt someone go quiet right after getting close, do not rush past that pattern. The next part matters because silence often hides much more than words. There is a deep truth about human attachment that most people do not talk about enough. We are not haunted by what is easy. We are haunted by what awakens something unfinished in us. That is why this person keeps thinking about you. You stirred a hidden need in them. You reflected something they had been missing for a long time, maybe without even knowing it. To them, you began to represent grounding, honesty, warmth, mystery, and a kind of emotional safety they were secretly searching for. Age does not always decide where emotional gravity goes. A younger person can become deeply attached to someone older when that person seems steady in the very places where they still feel unformed. They may not know how to explain it clearly, so the feelings come out sideways. They look too long. They get jealous and pretend they do not care. They watch your stories without saying much. They remember small things you mentioned once and bring them up later like they never left. They type messages and delete them. They want to come closer, then panic and step back. That contradiction is not always manipulation. Sometimes it is confusion, sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is the result of feeling too much and not knowing how to carry it with dignity. So if their actions seemed mixed, do not think that means there was nothing there. Mixed behavior often happens when the heart is stronger than the person's emotional skill. And if this sounds too familiar, stay here, because the night reveals what pride and fear try to hide during the day. Another reason they cannot stop thinking about you is simple but powerful. You did not chase them. You did not force your way into their life. You did not beg for attention. You did not keep proving your worth. In a world where so many people are loud, needy, and desperate to be chosen, your restraint felt rare. Your self-control created curiosity. Your silence made them wonder. Your depth made them feel both comforted and exposed. And exposure can become addictive to someone who has spent years hiding behind charm, jokes, distance, or emotional confusion. What hurts them most is realizing that you affected them without trying. That kind of impact is stronger than planned seduction because it feels real. It feels accidental. It feels honest. You touched places in them that other people could not reach, not because you tried harder, but because your energy matched a deeper hunger inside them. That is why ordinary distractions do not work for long. They can talk to other people. They can go out. They can post. They can laugh. They can pretend they are fine. But then a song plays, and your memory returns. A phrase reminds them of something you said. A lonely moment hits, and your face appears in their mind without warning. And then comes the thought they do not often admit out loud. No one has made me feel like this before. That single realization changes people. It can shake them, it can humble them, it can scare them, and it can make one quiet connection feel bigger than a dozen easy ones. So if they seemed unsettled after meeting you, there is a reason. Some emotions do not flatter the ego. They disturb it. What keeps this attachment alive night after night is not only desire, it is emotional recognition. Attraction can light up the body for a while, but recognition touches the soul and stays. Once someone feels truly recognized by another person, normal connections can start to feel flat. That is why they think about you before sleeping. Not because they are weak, not because they are simply obsessed, but because your presence attached itself to a deeper layer of their inner world. The painful part is that they may never confess this easily. Younger people often fear vulnerability more than loneliness. They fear rejection. They fear looking foolish. They fear losing control. They fear being the one who cares more. So instead of speaking clearly, they hide inside silence and hope their distance will protect them. But silence does not erase attachment. It feeds it. The mind becomes fixated on what it cannot resolve. That is why night becomes so powerful. There are no distractions left, no audience, no performance, just memory, longing, pride, and truth sitting in the dark together. That is when they replay your conversations. That is when they imagine telling you everything. That is when they wonder if you feel it too. And that is also when your own chest may tighten for no clear reason. Sometimes intuition notices emotional movement before logic can explain it. Sometimes you think of someone at the exact hour they are thinking of you. Sometimes their energy lingers long after the moment has passed. Call it instinct, call it chemistry, call it emotional signal, but do not dismiss it too quickly. Quiet bonds often speak before words ever do. There is also something powerful about the kind of pain you carry. People who have suffered deeply and still remain kind create a rare feeling in others, A younger person can sense that. They can feel the difference between someone who became bitter and someone who became wise. Maybe they notice the tiredness you hide well. Maybe they sense the loneliness you never talk about. Maybe they see that behind your calm voice there is a history of battles you survived in silence. And strangely, instead of pushing them away, that draws them closer. Not in a shallow way, not because they want to rescue you, but because there is something sacred about warmth that survived pain. It tells them you are real. It tells them your softness is not naive, it is earned. It tells them your calm did not come from an easy life. It came from learning how to carry storms without breaking in public. That kind of energy leaves a mark. It becomes unforgettable, especially for someone who is tired of fake connections and emotional games. They are not only drawn to your appearance or your personality, they are drawn to your emotional intelligence. They are drawn to the way you stayed human after disappointment. They are drawn to the patience in you, the control in you, the sadness in you, and the strange hope you still carry anyway. If they keep returning to your memory, this is part of the reason. Some people become meaningful because they are exciting. Others become meaningful because they feel like truth, and truth is much harder to replace. Still, this connection can confuse you because the closer they feel, the more distant they may appear. One day, they are warm. The next day, they are silent. One moment, their eyes say everything. The next moment, their actions say nothing. That contradiction can make you question yourself. It can make you wonder if you imagined the bond. But emotional immaturity often looks exactly like this. When feelings become real, people who are not ready for them sometimes retreat. Vulnerability threatens the illusion of control, and control feels safe to someone who has not yet learned how to love honestly. Real attachment does not always feel neat at first. It shakes old fears. It exposes insecurity. It brings up abandonment wounds, shame, doubt, and the fear of not being enough. A younger person may not have the tools to handle that gracefully. So part of them wants to come closer, and part of them wants to run. Part of them wants emotional freedom, and part of them secretly hopes you still think about them too. That inner fight becomes strongest at night when there is nothing left to hide behind. They lie there, caught between memory and fear, between desire and pride, between reaching out and staying silent. If this sounds painfully familiar, do not ignore it. Because the outer behavior may be messy, but the inner experience is often intense and very real. And before you decide what any silence means, remember this. Some people go quiet not because they feel nothing, but because they feel too much and do not know how to hold it. Maybe this hits so deeply because you know what emotional invisibility feels like. Maybe people admired you on the outside but never really understood what you carry inside. Maybe life taught you to hide your feelings because showing them once cost you too much. Maybe you learned independence not because you wanted to be untouchable, but because disappointment forced you to build strong walls. Over time, that kind of loneliness changes a person. It teaches you how to survive without reassurance. It teaches you how to smile while holding back storms. It teaches you how to stay composed while aching in private. And the younger person thinking about you every night can feel that hidden story. They may not know all the details, they may not know the names of your wounds, but they sense the shape of them. They sense that your strength was built, not borrowed. They sense that your calm has history behind it. And that is why their attachment goes beyond logic. They are not only interested in your presence, they are moved by what your presence represents. Endurance, depth, kindness after pain, warmth after loss, stability after chaos. In a world full of temporary attention, that feels almost unreal. That is why they keep coming back in their mind. That is why your memory lingers in them longer than they expected. And if you have been wondering why some people are drawn to you in ways they cannot explain, this may be the answer. Your energy speaks before you do. Your story shows up in the room, even when you say very little. And the right people feel it immediately. What they may not fully understand yet is that this feeling is not weakness. It is awakening. You woke up emotional depth inside them. You made them face feelings they had avoided. You showed them that true closeness is stronger than temporary excitement. After a connection like that, ordinary attraction stops feeling enough. Flirting may entertain them for a moment, but it does not satisfy them the same way anymore. That is why your bond becomes symbolic in their mind. You start to represent more than a person. You become a sign of something their soul has been missing: safety, meaning, longing, peace, desire, healing, truth. And symbols are powerful because the mind attaches emotional weight to them far beyond ordinary explanation. That is why they stare at your photos longer than they should. That is why they draft messages and erase them. That is why they imagine what would happen if they finally reached out honestly. And that is why the ache stays. Not because they are foolish, but because something in them knows this was never just casual. If you are still here, hear this clearly, because this part is important. Do not lower your worth chasing clarity from someone who is still afraid of their own heart. Feelings can be real and still be unfinished. Attraction can be deep and still be immature. A person can think about you every night and still lack the courage to love you well. Never forget that difference. Emotional truth needs action, not only hidden thoughts. Your role is not to rescue people who are emotionally unavailable. Your role is not to teach someone how to stop running from what they feel. Your role is to stay aligned with your own value. Deep down, you already know that real love should not require self-abandonment. The right bond moves toward honesty. It moves toward clarity. It moves toward openness. It does not leave you trapped in endless guessing forever. Yes, some connections need time. Yes, one person may still be growing. Yes, fear can slow down what the heart already knows. But growth and confusion are not the same thing, and you should never confuse longing for readiness. Someone can miss you deeply and still not be prepared to meet you where you stand. That is a painful truth, but it protects you. Because when a connection is meant to become real, it will not only live in silent thoughts, it will begin to move. It will show up. It will find courage. Until then, let their silence belong to them. Let their lessons be theirs to learn. You do not need to shrink yourself into uncertainty just because someone else is struggling to speak. Hold your ground. Keep your dignity. Let your heart stay soft, but let your standards stay strong. This message is not telling you to chase. It is telling you to understand, to recognize what may be happening beneath the surface without losing yourself inside it. Because sometimes the deepest power is not in forcing an answer. It is in remaining clear while someone else is still trying to understand their own truth. And still, somewhere tonight, they may be staring into the dark and replaying you again. They may be wondering if your silence means caution, distance, or hidden feeling. They may be asking themselves whether you sensed the bond as strongly as they did. They may be thinking about how your presence changed them more than they ever planned to admit. Because some people do not enter our lives to entertain us. They enter to transform us. You may never fully know how much your presence softened a wound in them. You may never know how many nights your memory became both comfort and pain. You may never know how often the thought of you pulled them back from emotional emptiness. That is the part most people never see. Quiet impact, invisible influence. The way one genuine person can become a turning point in someone else's inner life. And maybe that is the real reason they keep thinking about you every night. Not because you were perfect, not because you manipulated them, not because they are weak, but because something inside them finally felt recognized when they met you. People do not easily forget the ones who make them feel seen. So if this message lands in your chest with unusual force, trust that feeling. Some connections arrive without labels, without good timing, without easy explanations, and still leave a permanent mark. That does not mean every deep feeling is meant to become a forever story, but it does mean it was real enough to matter. And sometimes that truth alone changes everything inside a person. There is another layer to this that many people overlook. The younger person is not only remembering who you were with them, they are also remembering who they became around you. Around you, they may have felt more honest, more open, more awake, more emotionally exposed than they had in years. You did not just give them attention, you gave them a mirror. You reflected a version of themselves they could not ignore, a version that wanted more depth, more meaning, more truth than they had been settling for. That kind of mirror can be both beautiful and terrifying. Beautiful, because it makes them feel alive. Terrifying, because now they cannot fully go back to sleep inside shallow habits. This is why they may return to old routines yet still feel unsatisfied. The conversations feel thinner, the attraction feels weaker, the noise feels louder. Once someone has touched a deeper emotional current, ordinary waters stop feeling enough, and this is where their private struggle grows. They want the comfort of what is familiar, but they cannot forget the feeling of what was real. So night after night, they stand at that inner doorway, one part of them looking back, another part looking forward, and your presence sitting right there in the middle of the choice. If you ever wondered why one sincere bond can outlast 10 easy ones, this is why. Depth changes the standard. Truth changes the appetite. And once the heart has recognized something rare, pretending it never happened becomes exhausting. Maybe one day they will speak. Maybe one day fear will lose its grip and honesty will finally win. Maybe one day they will stop deleting the message and actually send it. Maybe one day they will tell you that your calm made them feel safe, that your sadness made them feel close, that your strength made them trust you, and that your silence left an echo in them they could not escape. Or maybe they will stay quiet much longer than either of you expected. That part is not fully in your hands. What is in your hands is this: protect your heart, trust what you feel, and do not underestimate the emotional effect your presence has in this world. There are people who cross paths and leave nothing behind. Then there are people who leave fingerprints on the soul. You are that kind of person for someone right now, even if they never say it well, even if they hide it badly, even if they act inconsistent because they are still learning how to carry real emotion. So do not confuse delayed courage with your lack of worth. Do not mistake another person's fear for proof that the bond was imaginary. Some truths take time to surface. Some hearts need longer to mature. But none of that asks you to abandon yourself while waiting. Let your life keep moving. Let your peace stay intact. If they are meant to meet this truth fully, they will have to rise to it. And if they do, it will come with more than feelings. It will come with clarity, presence, and choice. Until then, let the silence say what it says. Let the night carry what it carries. Somewhere while the world sleeps, they are still fighting feelings they cannot easily name. They are still carrying your energy through another restless hour. They are still replaying moments that looked small on the outside but felt life-changing on the inside. They are still trying to understand why your memory has weight, why your absence has sound, why your calm unsettled them, why your honesty stayed, why your eyes felt familiar, why your warmth felt like home and risk at the same time. And maybe the reason this touches you so deeply is because some part of you already knew. Some part of you felt the pull before there was proof. Some part of you recognized that this was not ordinary. If so, honor that knowing, but stay grounded in your worth. Deep connection is meaningful, but self-respect is sacred. Let what is real reveal itself in time. Let what is confused remain where it belongs until it becomes clear. And remember this when the night gets quiet and old thoughts return. Being unforgettable does not mean you must chase being chosen. Sometimes your power is simply this, that your presence reached a place in someone no one else could reach, and whether they speak now or later or never at all, that truth has already done its work.